What's up, guys? Hope everyone's been doing well. Today I want to make a video about how I studied for the NAPLEX and how I passed the NAPLEX. And also I did get my results for my CPJE exam, which is a California pharmacist exam, and I did pass. So technically I'm an official pharmacist registered in California. And so I want to get started by talking about my study methods of how I studied specifically for the NAPLEX. The CPJ was a different type of exam. It focused on different aspects. But this video I'll only talk about my study tips for the NAPLEX. Let's get started. So my school provided me, well actually I provided my school tuition, which then they used to get me this book. It's the RX Prep review book. And I basically used this to go over every subject that would be on the NAPLEX. This book, it does a pretty good job of explaining different aspects of pharmacy, but it's more of a surface level, which what you want. You don't want to go too in depth into studying for the board because the boards could literally ask you anything about pharmacy, and so it's better to have a general overview of every subject and be very good in one subject and not know anything about any other subject. So you want to get as many points as you guys want on the exam. So this book, what I did is, and be mindful that I did go through 4 years of pharmacy school, and 4 years of pharmacy school basically wants to prep you for the board exams, both your state or local exam and also the national exam. Pharmacy school does encompass like other things like professionalism and actual pharmacy practice, but a big chunk of pharmacy school is actually prepping you for these boards. So everything in this book, more or less, I have gone over in school. So this was a review process for me. I wasn't really learning anything new, but just refreshing things I learned maybe in my first or second year, and then kind of solidifying things I've learned recently. What I did basically was, so this is a textbook, obviously, or it's a review book. I did read over most of it. The RX Prep company or program, they also have online little lectures. I go over each chapter, and they also give some practice quizzes, which I did take. So what I would do is I would read a chapter of the book. So let's say if I open up a random chapter, let's say, like common conditions of the eyes and ears. So this is basically maybe like glaucoma or allergic conjunctivitis or any sort of thing. I would read it, kind of refresh myself with the material. I would go maybe watch the lecture and kind of hearing it, because I like to read something and then hear it and then also teach it. That's like my basic ways I study. And so I would read this chapter, I would watch the online lecture of it, and I would take a quiz. And also, whenever I would get a chance, if I was studying with a friend, I would also teach that person something, even though they already know that subject. The fact that I'm teaching it helps my brain remember that concepts and remember the side effects and medications more. So teaching is something I really love, which is why I make these YouTube videos. And so that's a big component in my personal opinion of how you learn something. If you're able to teach it to somebody who technically doesn't know anything, that means you really understand the material, and that's what I would assess myself with. If I was able to teach someone about a complicated subject in a very simple manner, that showed to me, or that proved to me, that I was able to really comprehend that concept, and that gave me confidence in taking exams that have questions that are based on that subject. Another aspect that I want to point out is, if you look at this book, you look how thick the book is. It's a pretty dense book. And if you ask me, Edgy, do you know every single thing in this book? Do you know every side effect or every black box warning for every medication? And my honest answer is no, of course not. I don't think anybody does or should know every side effect memorized. What they should know is how the drug works and why the side effects are the way they are. If you can make sense of something, if you make sense of why this medication has this side effect because of the way the medication works, you generally will have a harder time forgetting that, versus if you just blindly memorize why a side effect is and you have no logic or understanding behind that, you generally will forget that more. So what I try to do is I really try to understand why and how the medication works, which will then in turn help me understand the side effects. So there have been times, for example, on an exam question where I don't know this medication that well, but I do know the class of the medication, meaning the mechanism of action. I know how it works, and what I would do is I would basically deduce or think about, okay, if this medication works like this, then I assume this will be a common side effect, and more or less I'm generally right on those exam questions, so I'm very grateful for that. But that's what I generally go about studying. If you study to memorize and don't understand anything, you're gonna have a hard time passing the exam, because you might get some questions right because it's a short-term memory, but as a pharmacist, I do want to really understand the material so I could also help my patients and be of good service to my patients. And so that's how I go about it. And if you're watching this video to see like if there are any shortcuts that you could take while studying, and I don't think there are, and I don't think there should be. I think you should, as a student, you should basically know what are important aspects of being a pharmacist and what are important big medications or questions that are commonly asked for pharmacists that they should know, and focus on those. Like if there's like a random disease state that it's not very common, then more or less those are not going to be as many questions, for example, as other common disease states. So focus on that, focus on learning, and focus on not memorizing as much and more of like understanding the concept. That'll take you further in your studies than just trying to memorize it for the sake of the test. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video and found it helpful. If you guys have any other questions, please comment in the comment section below. And I'm also thinking about doing a Q&A video. If you guys have any specific questions about me or my experiences with school or work, I'm gonna post it on my Instagram. It's Edgy Official, and I'll also put a link in the description below. You guys could ask questions when I submit the post on my Instagram. Also, make sure to like and subscribe. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.